The number one selling product of its kind with over 20 years of research and innovation. Botox Cosmetic, out of botulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest, the last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your
windshield wipers? eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying. Just beautiful.
Whatever you love, find it on eBay. eBay. Things people love.
All right. Welcome back. It's Fit Nation. As we grow up from being a little kid, we are constantly learning. Many times we are being handed life lessons without even knowing it at all. Our parents tell us things, we just look at them like they're crazy, but they're actually influencing us for things that will happen to us later in life. We are not experts from birth. There are many people that must help us along the way. When our children have children, we are now in a great position to help by molding and teaching the future generation of adults from both our lessons learned as children and our lessons as parents. Our next guest has had a full life and is even fuller now with 3 grown children and 6 grandchildren. He is an author and a mentor. So without further ado, let's get Gramps Jeffrey, author of I Don't Want to Turn 3, on here. All right, let's welcome to the Misfit Nation, Gramps Jeffrey from Arizona, author and proud grandpa. How are you?
Oh, I'm glad you invited me. Thank you.
Thanks for reaching out. And I think it's amazing that you reached out to me the same day that my 3-year-old granddaughter was here. So it just kind of resonated with me, worrying about a 3-year-old running around the house.
So you saw exactly what was in the book then?
Yes. I've seen her go through her changes from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and now she's just boss now. So
That's great. That's great.
So tell us a little bit about your backstory, how you got into writing, of course, where you come from and all that stuff, so the audience knows a little more about you.
Sure. No, this happens to be my second book. I decided I needed to be writing when I was young. Took a 11-week backpack trip through Europe, and I kept a journal. And every day, a journal just about people and where we were and so forth. And then I stuck it away. And about 10 years later, the friend and I who went backpacking looked at it and said, "Wow, this really, I didn't realize that I was going to become a writer." So I kept that on hold for a while. And I started an online business, became the largest business-to-business site on the internet where we sold case quantity to small businesses all around the world. And we were helping mom and pop survive and thriving as the chains. So my first book is called The Secrets of Retailing, How to Beat Wal-Mart. And it's a step-by-step guide on how to open a business and get ahead. So there's 15 different chapters. It's about a chapter on how to hire people, on where to find locations, how to buy products, how to compete and market both online and marketplace. And so that was my first book. And what happened was, because Dollar Days business evolved, and half the business now comes from nonprofit organizations, churches and schools, who we help them stretch their dollars so they can help more people. I got very interested in the nonprofit world. And it happened that Arianna Huffington read my book and asked me to contribute to the Huffington Post. I don't know if you're familiar with that publication.
Yes, sir.
I've written over 100 articles for the Huffington Post on the homeless, on veterans, a lot of military things that I've written about, and elderly and so forth. And so then, when I retired from working, and the COVID hit, and living this past year because of the pandemic caused by COVID, in isolation, except for being with my family, gave me a special time to watch and interact with these grandkids. And I got to tell you, what a trip that was. All 6 of these grandkids have completely different personalities. The one thing that they do have in common is their sense of curiosity. How excited they get when they do accomplish something. So watching them grow up year to year and how they interact was really the basis for this book.
Outstanding. And just each one of them can be their own book, probably, with the different personalities, but putting them all into one, I don't want to turn 3. I mean, that's an awesome title. And I love the cover of the book, basically a pencil drawing colored in. Looks pretty authenticious for young kids to be on the cover there. And then talk about Jordan to start it off with and go through the book. It's really good.
Yeah, and again, with you just experiencing with your 3-year-old, what goes through a toddler's mind, parents are so desperate to understand. When does a toddler understand the difference between me and us? This book explores how a family finds out together. But, when you think about it, it's happening in every family in the world. Yes. This transformation between understanding, between me and us. The real question of the book is, at what age do we begin to take responsibility for our actions? Is it 3 years old? Is it 13? Is it 23? In my generation, I know guys that are 63 that are just starting to take, responsibility for their actions. So that's really the heart of the book is how does a family kind of guide itself to do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a journey for the whole family, especially with the first one. The second one, you kind of have a few lessons learned from the first one you had, and try to wade through that minefield for the second one a little easier. You're not as scared with the second one. You don't think it's going to break if you touch it. And then you kind of learn a little more of the parenting skills as you go along. I know that's what happened with us. And even though I wasn't home a lot when my daughter was small because I was away with the Army, but my wife had to go through it, and I'd come home and be the tornado when I come home, because I didn't know what was laid down already, and I'd come in and just mess everything up and would go 3 steps back because of me.
As a baby boomer myself, I'm trying to understand how the world has evolved since I was 3 years old. That's also part of this whole story is how's it changed today versus, to people my age, the baby boomers. My parents didn't have cell phones. They didn't have the internet. They didn't have cable TV. They didn't have remotes. I was my dad's remote. He said, "Son, go change the channel." And I'd walk up and change the channel. That's my parents' definition of discipline is just so different than the parents of today. Has today's world made for a better place for children to grow up in? I'll kind of let your listeners kind of answer that question. And how are we treating our kids compared to how we were as we were growing up?
Yeah, so we had a way different mindset of parents when I was growing up, especially, like you said, change the channel or even adjust the antenna to get the channel in, because there was no cable. There was a crazy antenna on top of the dog ears, or send us on the roof to actually adjust the big antenna on the roof to make sure we're getting some kind of signal so we can watch the news or whatever at night. And if you didn't do it right, you had to keep going up and down. Is the channel good? No, go back up, go all the way back upstairs, do it again until you get it right. So it was a different world back then.
Oh yeah, I just think about discipline. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Now, I was raised by the greatest generation in this country. I mean, they're the ones that saved us in World War II. They're the ones that built up this country. That generation, very disciplined generation, and so they treated their kids a little differently. I mean, my dad, my mother would say, wait till your dad hears about this. He'd come home, he'd pull off his belt, and he chases around the table, the kitchen table. There was he had also had this fraternity paddle of his, and he would whip that out every once in a while. Well, one night in late fall, we were my brother Larry and I grew up in Ohio, and there was we took his paddle out when they went around, and we buried it in the pile of leaves in the backyard. It snowed the next day, and in the spring the paddle was gone. It was like a miracle to me. The paddle was gone. That's a sign that life is going to be good. So, but our kids don't do that now, and they shouldn't. That's not how we taught them to do it. When they discipline. I mean, I had 4 of them here for the holiday weekend. They send them to timeout. That's how they understand. That you're not performing correctly. You're going to go sit in the corner until you get your act together. That's a whole different world of discipline. Over the generations, and it's better. I can tell you, it's better.
Yeah, and I don't think I ever heard the word timeout unless I was playing sports when I was young. My mom, she was the disciplinarian until Dad got home. Dad, just like yours, had the quickest belt on the block. That belt was off before you knew it. He was like Bruce Lee with a belt, and it'd be off and chasing one or all 3 of the boys, and then my sister as well. And then he had a whistle. He whistled on our porch. No matter where you were, you'd hear it. He'd blow that whistle, and he'd whistle it just in his mouth, and you just start running home because you knew one of us were in trouble. We had to get there in time.
Very true. I guess those are the good old days, right?
Yeah. But just like you're saying, the generation that we have produced, they have evolved. We evolved too. We knew that we had to make it better for our kids, and we changed the way we parented a little bit. And of course, we were helped with technology as it came into play during about halfway through my daughter's young ages. I guess that's when cell phones and all that stuff blew up, and everyone had to have one. She finally got one when we were living in Korea. She got a cell phone. She actually had 3 because she lost them all the time. So she'd get one, lose one, get one, lose one. Then we came home with them. And you get to the States, you have to have a cell phone. So we got it on here. And you can see the leash just get harder and harder to get away from at that point.
I can tell you that, in my opinion, this newest generation of kids coming up are just so much smarter than these other generations. I mean, we as baby boomers think we're pretty smart, but I tell you, these young ones that are 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, they are just so much smarter than we are. And I think that part of that is because they got into electronics so young. Yes. They got on the iPads. They were able to learn in different ways. You ask Alexa a question, she'll tell you the answer right away. At our time, we had to go to the library. So, this is a very smart generation coming along, and it's up to us to educate them and give them as much as we possibly can. One thing we always have to keep in mind is it's necessary for us to teach our children how to think, not what to think. Let them form their own opinions, but we have got to give them the guidelines of how to think through things. And that's why, reading books and is just so important for us as parents and grandparents to do to our kids. And when you think about it, and there's 100 books that are just as good as mine out there on different topics and things that you can read your kids' books. But the whole thing of reading books is just so important to children for several reasons. One reason is, as a grandparent who may or may not see your kids that often, your grandkids, it creates a bonding experience. So, you let your kid go out and pick up one of the books that they have, bring it in, and you sit down with them and you actually read a book with them. It's a bonding experience for grandparents, especially, but also parents, of course. It supports listening skills. I think you and I have learned as we grow older, listening skills is the most important skill we're going to have. Because, if we can listen and to everyone else and put it together and form our own opinions, that is how we grow. So it's important for us to read to these kids for them to learn the listening skills, because it requires them to listen to what's going on. It also, at that age, and I'm looking at 2, 3, 4-year-olds, the cognitive and language development. They learn new words. They can ask you what these words are. You can teach them words, but it gives you a format right there in a book, sitting and bonding together to teach them to do this cognitive language and learn new things. And another reason is attention span. Little kids can have attention spans for 2 or 3 minutes, but if you sit down with an interesting book that they picked out, and that you can get them involved in, then and so that's why it's so important for your generation and my generation, just to read to kids, so that they can just get better and use the technology they're using on their iPhones and so forth, and combine that. And I'm telling you, these guys, they're going to be so smart.
Yeah, I was going to bring up with the technology along with the reading, show them that you're, I guess the good word would be hip on their technology, because we didn't have this technology growing up. But in order to stay up with them, you have to stay up with technology in order to understand what they're saying or understand what they're actually going through, learning the Mac, learning the smartphone, and then also reading to them about other things. My granddaughter, she comes start reading her from the Jeep magazine, because I have a Jeep. Start reading that and show her all the parts of the Jeep on the Jeep magazine. She just loves that because of the monster truck all the time. That's my way of helping her out.
Oh, I've got a Jeep. What magazine is that?
It's Extreme Terrain.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I could do the same thing with my kids, because they love my Jeep.
And they have the pictures of everything in there. It's beautiful.
Yeah, they think that my Jeep is the best car that they've been in. so that's great. Yeah, I'm going to take advantage of that. That's a good idea. Yeah. But talking about technology, my 6-year-old grandson Levi, for some reason he got involved with Minecraft. I don't know if you know, it's his thing. I mean, this kid is obsessed with Minecraft. Okay, so you kind of wonder, okay, is it good or bad? Well, he can't wait till his dad gets home at night so the two of them can play Minecraft together. Okay?
Oh, wow.
That's the same thing as learning how to kick the ball together or bat to bat together. So technology can work in the right way, and I can see it. You start talking about Minecraft, they just bounce off each other. It just gives them a common goal. So yes, I encourage everyone to keep, not more than a couple 3 hours a day, but get them into electronics so they can jump on these things.
And I think Minecraft is a good example, because I think if they're really good with Minecraft, it helps them with designing stuff. It helps their imagination to build things. I know they can build castles and stuff on there, but they can also draw the plans for a house and draw everything they want to make the whole fort themselves on their game itself. So it helps them build that cognitive knowledge as well with that game. And it's a game that was reborn because it was out, I think, in the 80s, and now has come back to popularity now.
Yeah. And taking that thought but putting it back into reading to children and reading the books, again, asking questions is really what expands their mind. If you have your child go out and pick out a book and bring it back, and you sit down with them, first thing you should do to them is, before you even open up the book, is, what do you think will happen in this book? Okay, that way, they're looking at the cover, they say, what do you think will happen? It starts to get their mind going. Then while you're reading the book to them, and who are the characters in this book? Where is the setting? Can you relate to the characters? Can you relate to the setting? Is it someplace in your neighborhood, or is it fantasy? It helps them to keep thinking about things like that. And ask them, does anything in this book sound familiar to you? Because again, with them watching television and their books and so on, is there anything that really sounds familiar to you? And then always, all of us, whether grandparents or parents, when you're done with the book, you look at your kid and you say, what was your favorite part of the book? Again, we got to get them to think. Let them think these thoughts, because once they start thinking, they can play off of you, and it's a lot of fun.
Definitely. And we took there's a walking trail here not far from our house. It's about a 1.5 mile loop, basically. And Eagle Scout, as part of this project, put a children's book throughout the walking trail, so you can read the whole book with your child as you go through it. So we took our granddaughter through that. I think it's called Good Night Dragon or something. Dragon Good Night. But you walk through and read the whole story. You say, "What's going to think now? What do you think's going to happen now with this picture?" And then you read it to her. And then at the end, what do you think about that? I like the dragons. So it's amazing watching their little minds go.
What a great way to combine hiking and education.
Yes.
I mean, we got a mountain near my house, so I took 4 of the kids on it Thursday. Yeah, and it's the first time that 2 of them have ever been on a mountain.
Oh wow!
And it was not too hard, but it was going up the mountain on the trail. it was like this was the highlight of their life. And they kept looking down. Everything looked so small.
Right.
So if you can get your kids out and hiking, and it just all those experiences add up. And and I'm sure you and I both can say you have great memories of certain things when you were 2, 3, 4, 6 years old, and then you have some that you don't like. But they stick with you both ways, both good and bad.
They definitely do. They all stick with you no matter what, like you said, good or bad. Even the indifferent ones, all these memories pop up now, especially since I started doing the podcast and talking to other people, listening to their experiences. I get all these flashbacks to when I was a kid and things that we did. And then, of course, flashbacks to my time in service and how I felt like I was raising other kids at that point and learning my way through that before I had to get an adult job when I retired. So it's a good journey to go through memory lane and remember all the things that you learned as a child and through your young adulthood.
Let me address your grandparents who may be listening to this right now. We as grandparents have got to get involved in the lives of these kids. In my particular case, I've got 2 grandkids that live here in town with me. I got 2 in Austin, Texas, and I got 2 in Orlando, Florida. They're all over the place. And when COVID hit, we had very trouble seeing each other. So you've got to find an interest that your grandkids really are into. Now, my kids, and I think it's pretty much universal, they love dinosaurs.
Yes.
And I don't know why they love dinosaurs, but they're 2, 3, 4, 5, even a 6-year-old loves dinosaurs. And, they can tell me the names of all these dinosaurs. They can tell me whether they eat meat or if they're vegetable. I can only tell you they're small, medium, and large. They can tell me everything. So in my particular case, what we did to try to keep connected with our kids in Texas and Florida is knowing that they love dinosaurs. We took half a dozen of our little dinosaurs around the house, and every night we put them someplace different in the house, and they'd be doing something. So for instance, we had them in the refrigerator eating blueberries. We had them at the sink with grandma washing the dishes with the soap on their nose. We had them at the piano playing the piano. We had them walking up steps. Anyway, we had 50 different adventures, 50 different nights. And what happened with the grandkids, because again, it's up to us to stay in touch with them. They're not going to call you all the time, is that every night they started calling us. They would call on my wife's iPhone for FaceTime, and they would say, "Where's Gramps? Where's Gramps? We got to find out what the dinosaurs are doing tonight." And so every night we would do this, and that during the COVID year, that kept us in touch with these kids. It helped the bonding that we had. It was something that they were interested in, so we just kind of took advantage of it. I urge everyone in your audience to think about what these little kids, what's their interest, and what can you do to relate to them? Because again, you're going to be the one calling them. Very seldom do they call you. And so just keep that in mind. It's something that we have to do because, as grandparents, first of all, you only have 18 years to influence a kid. Boom, once they're out of the house, they're on their own. You think you're influencing them, but you can't. It's a whole different world. So, they're only going to be young once. And for that matter, grandparents are only going to be young once too, at this age. So you got to take advantage of that, because the future is unpredictable. We all know you could be here today and gone tomorrow. So you've got to take advantage of being around your kids and kind of not force the issue, but make sure they know that you're around there. You've got to become part of a routine. If you live in the same neighborhood, great. When I was growing up, my uncle was up the street, my grandma was down 2 blocks, and they were part of my routine. Well, in today's world, that doesn't happen as much. You got family all over the place. So you got to try to become part of the routine so that you do have an influence, because that's what grandparents and parents, we need to be the mentors to give these kids a path to be on the right, rightness, to do the right thing. And don't be afraid to initiate. Just call the kids. Just force yourself to call them. And you got to do that. So that's my advice to any grandparents that are listening.
That's good advice, and you're right. It usually is the older people that are initiating the call, because most times the kid doesn't know how to use the phone, or they're not going to be, mindful enough to do that at that time. They might be doing something else. So usually we do FaceTime with our granddaughter, and she's usually doing 9 different things when she's on there. But she knows we're there, so she's still showing us what she's doing, playing cars, because she loves cars, or she's making a mess with paint and stuff. So it's just being involved in, like we said earlier, listen. You got to listen to people, listen to hear, and then also be present when you're there with them. When you go out with them, don't be on the phone unless you take a picture of them, whatever. But put the phone down and actually be there. Be in the room with them. Don't have your mind somewhere else. Turn off everything else while you're there, and try to be a member of the party that's going on.
That's one of the hardest things to do.
Yes.
I mean, it's great. That's fabulous advice. If we just think if everybody would listen to that, that would be great.
It'd be amazing. So if you can give advice to an author, like from your business side and this side, what would be advice that you'd give them to get going? And like you wrote your book on the secrets to success in retailing, secrets of retailing, how to beat Walmart. And then I Don't Want to Turn 3. It's 2 different genres, of course. What advice would you give them if they want to write a book, or if they've had an itch and maybe like you did your journal while you were hiking across Europe? What would they look for as a sign to tell them to write?
Well, the one thing that you keep in mind that when you love, you will teach others to love. So you've got to kind of do that too in your mind. You know, if you write early on, it's not something you teach yourself. It's one of those things that you are born with. It's we all are born to do something different. I mean, you ended up in the military. That's a great direction to go into. I ended up in retailing. That's a great direction to go into. But this is because writing is an art. It's like painting a picture. Now, I can't even draw a straight line, so I can never become a painter. Okay, but that's what you have to do, and then you got to kind of have a plan. Like for instance, I Don't Want to Turn 3 is the first book I'm thinking about now. I Don't Want to Turn 4. And I Don't Want to Turn 5. In fact, my granddaughter, who just turned 9, she came to me this weekend. She says, "I've got a great idea for a book. I don't want to turn 10." So yeah, so you just kind of find your niche and go as far as you can with it. And just the one thing that I've always said to myself is, dance like nobody's watching. So write like nobody cares. Do your thing. Be your own person. Because in the end, it's all going to come out. And don't if you want to be a writer, don't let anybody else influence you and tell you no, you're no good. Just do it. That's the best thing to get going. And then you learn a lot from your mistakes, and so that's my advice.
You definitely, if you have to learn from your mistakes, if you don't, you're just going to stay in the mistake world until someday somebody kicks you and tells you to get up and walk the opposite direction. So
you're absolutely right.
Otherwise, the mistakes will eat you up. Of the 2 books, which one was the most fun to write?
Well, because the I Don't Want to Turn 3 is a real story.
Right.
And all the pictures are real pictures. And I sent the pictures of, like the kids in the bathtub. That was a picture of the kids in the bathtub. And then the artist just, made it look like a more fun kids book. And that was it. Because I see my kids sharing it. For instance, again, I had 4 of them over this last week, and they stayed at our house. And the oldest, Olivia, grabbed the book. She grabbed the other 3, and she went underneath my desk for some reason. And they didn't know I was standing on the side there. And she was reading the book to them. And Levi says, "That's me in the bathtub." And Jackson says, "Those are me and my dinosaurs." And so just the pleasure of hearing that these kids really are involved. And then last week, Olivia had to bring a book to school and dress up as a character of the book. And so she took herself, who was in the book wearing a red dress, dressed up as herself, and took the book in and read it to her class. So, those are the priceless moments. No money can really pay for that. It's like, wow, they really got it.
And that's a gift that keeps giving for you right there, to see all of them be able to share that with not just amongst themselves, but with their friends now too, and then their friends can share with their families. That's an amazing gift, and that has to make that more of the fun side of the book there. I mean, I know on the retail side, helping one person in their success story, that is joy too. Even if you just, like you said, you write and get it out there. You wrote that book, you didn't know how many people you were going to touch with that book at that point. If one person was successful in their fight against the giants like Walmart, Target, then you were a success at that point because you touched that one person. You already got.
Oh yeah, I mean, I did a national book signing on the secrets of retailing, how to beat Walmart, and as I was signing books, I just can't tell you how many people says, I read this chapter and it worked for me. You're right. It's like you can't ask for anything better than that.
That's better than winning an Oscar or whatever, a Grammy, or the book awards. It's better than getting the #1 bestseller. That one person saying, you did this for me. Hey, I got it. The same thing with this podcast. If one person listens and hears us two talking about our old times and how we're transitioning into grandparenting and seeing the grandkids grow up now, and they say, oh, the light bulb was on, I need to change up how I'm doing things. That's one person that we help. That's good.
Yeah, you have to look at grandparents and parents. We have to be the mentors. We have to be the ones that are giving them ideas to do things. Let them do their own thing, but if you can just influence them a little bit, that's what life's all about.
Definitely. What's the best way for someone to get in touch with you if they want to have you on their show or just to chat with you? What's the best way?
Oh, absolutely. You can go to my site, it's Gramps Jeffrey, JEFFREY.com, or IDon'tWantToTurn3.com, or feel free to just email me. It's GrampsJeffrey@gmail.com. I'd love to talk to anyone about either business or kids. It's what I love to do.
We're the business of kids. It's good.
Yeah.
It all coincides at some point. But Gramps, this was great having you on here and learning about your techniques of parenting, grandparenting, your hike across Europe, and of course both your books. Good luck to both of them, and I can't wait to see. Don't want to turn 4, 5, 6, and of course 10 for Olivia, and we can see all that on the bookshelves here in the near future.
Great, thanks for inviting me.
No problem. Have a good night. That was an awesome chat with Gramps Jeffrey. Hopefully you enjoyed listening to the importance of mentoring our children and grandchildren. Be sure to check out his book, I Don't Want to Turn 3, wherever you like to get your books from. You can also watch this one on our YouTube channel, The Misfit Nation. It's _Misfit Nation. You know how we do this. Thanks for taking some of your time to spend with us on Misfit Nation. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and share the link as much as possible. If you want to, please become a supporter and help us carry this thing on. We appreciate you. If you know someone that would bring that energy, has a great story, has an awesome product, is helping their community, is helping veteran community, have them visit us at themisfitnation.com and request to be a guest or send us a message. We will get back to them within one day. So as always, till next time, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are Misfit Nation.